Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Metropolitan Nashville Black Yellow Pages. And we have with us to talk about the Metropolitan Nashville Black Yellow Pages this morning, Ms. Dolores Black, who is the president of the Nashville Metropolitan Black Yellow Pages. And of course, with Ms. Dolores Black is Mr. Nathaniel Perry. Mr. Perry is a graphic artist from Tennessee State University. And of course, Ms. Black and Mr. Perry, let me welcome both of you to the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to tell you how delighted we are to have the two of you with us. Let's see if we can start off, Ms. Black and Mr. Perry, by having the two of you give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the experiences that eventually, in your case, led you to the Metropolitan Nashville Black Yellow Pages. And of course, with Mr. Perry, he'll talk about his experiences that qualified him as a graphic artist for this particular production. And of course, after that, we'll get into some other issues. But let's start off with you, Ms. Black, by having you do that.
Okay, well, actually, I'm a native Nashvilleian who started the Black Yellow Pages. Soon will be 13 years come next month. The Black Yellow Pages, as most Nashvilleians know, is an African-American business directory. Minorities advertise in it. The directory is filled with historical data, role models, movers and shakers, quiz questions, and more.
Mm-hmm. In other words, it's much more than just a list of telephone numbers.
Yes, we have a slogan that goes, it's more than a directory and better than a magazine.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And of course, Mr. Perry, what about your situation?
Well, I started working with her this year on our 13th edition of her magazine, and my background as a graphic artist, I just picked it up as a hobby, as something that I enjoy to do, and started seeing more and more how we could actually use this as something that would benefit me in the long run, or benefit me financially, or benefit me as something that I could really do as a, instead of a hobby, as something that I can do as actual work.
Make it a profession out of it, and very good. And of course, when we talk about the Black Yellow Pages, Ms. Black, why don't you give us some idea about, you've been working with it for 13 years, but what first inspired you to become involved in such a production, and how did you identify that need?
Well, how I identified the need. Actually, I had moved back to Nashville, my 89-year-old uncle, who had asked me this particular morning to take him to a barbershop. And I'm thinking, where is there an African-American barbershop out in the Antioch area, not needing one myself? Then some weeks or months later, I had this thought and vision and idea to do a minority business directory, not knowing that, that there were other minorities directories being printed around the country and Canada. Also not knowing that the very first minority directory that was ever published was published here in Nashville by R.C. Grant, which was called in 1925 the Nashville Colored Directory. But to answer your question, I was, after my uncle had asked me to take him to the barbershop, my wheels start turning, and I'm thinking, someone needs to do a minority directory, not knowing that I would be that person. As I got into the production, I thought it would be clever to include historical data. That way someone could actually, as they read the directory, as you know, you don't really sit and read the real Yellow Pages, I don't think, but my concept causes you to actually look at each page, and I feel that you can actually see a person's advertisement, whether you're looking for that service at that time or not. So again, to answer your question, I was prompted with my uncle asking me to take him to a barbershop. But of course my background was not in publishing. So I just think it was just the grace of God that caused me to go forth with this.
And so you've been doing it for 13 years.
It will be 13 years this month, the 15th or 20th of this month, yes.
What have you found in terms of your experiences with this production here over the 13 years? What are some of the things that you can pull out and say that these are some of the things that we didn't know when we first started, and here we are 13 years later, about your growth and development in reference to that.
Well, as you know, we have corporations that advertises in the directory as well. And again, as I said earlier, I was not aware that this directory or these type directories was being printed around the country and Canada. So back in 1995, a few of us, it was about 11, we found each other and went to a little function in Chicago and agreed upon hosting, or not hosting, but having a, well, first let me say we came together and formed an organization called the National Black Pages Publishers Association. I volunteered to host our very first conference here in Nashville, which was held here in '95. As a matter of fact, last year in January, I hosted our 5th anniversary here in Nashville. Dr. Joseph Lowry was my guest speaker, and each year, twice a year, we go into the various cities of the publishers who are publishing minority directories, and we have our 4-day conference to learn more about marketing the African American businesses.
Well, what can you tell us in terms of marketing the African American business? I mean, how does this play into African American economic development?
Well, actually, the advertisement, let me say this, because working with this directory this year, I found it to be my most difficult year to work. I was very disturbed when I was out there this year along with my sales staff, selling advertisement and seeing it very difficult for the African Americans to be able to advertise this year for whatever reasons. I think the event that happened in New York, the Twin Tower event.
September.
Yes, the 911 as I refer to it. I think it affected a lot of businesses, quite a few businesses this year. There were quite a few businesses that had closed down who had been advertising in the directory before. So this year was a very tough year with MedPlus closing, Shoney's cutting back. It was difficult, but you just don't give up. You just hang in there and keep doing what you do best.
And of course, Ms. Perry, I think that in terms of as a graphic designer, what you're doing is taking that yellow page, that is the Nashville Metropolitan Yellow Page, and then converting it to graphic designs for the World Wide Web. Is that what, would that be safe?
That is a direction that we're taking. Eventually we'll take the ads that are there and possibly put them up on the website and allow the people to see their web. In fact, one of the slogans on the new one would probably be now view your ad online. So.
And so this gives an additional opportunity for some of the things that you've been doing, Ms. Black, in terms of the printed material. Now you're on the World Wide Web.
Exactly. Well, I've had a website up now for several years. I'm not computer illiterate at all. I've been blessed to find Nathaniel. What I'm wanting to do with him, as soon as we get finished with the production of the 13th edition, is hopefully have him to put the directory. I understand in talking to him that we can put it on a disc. Is that not correct? And being the vice president of the National Black Pages Publishers Association, I'm hoping that Nathaniel will go with me and be able to persuade the other publishers to now go online. Or perhaps another idea that we were talking about the other night would be to put the directory on disc. And it would probably save us some money, because it cost almost $2 to mail my directory this day and time, because it has grown in size. So I'm thinking that if we could put it on disc, and when the people call and wanting a copy of it, they can either get a hard copy or they can get it on disc. Hopefully they'll request the disc, and it's cheaper to mail.
Very good. And of course, Ms. Perry, we're coming up to our first commercial break. Excuse me, after which we'll come back and we'll give you an opportunity to talk about some of the steps that are necessary to take a printed production, because I think that that's what we're interested in now, because I think that there are a large number of people who fall into the same category that Ms. Black is in, which is to say that they've got a viable printed document, and at the same time there ought to be some procedures, steps. One, what's the first step you have to take, and et cetera, so that those individuals who might see this show will have some idea as to the procedure that they must follow if they are planning on moving from the printed material to the disc. And of course, we'll be back with the two of you as well as with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.